Here, I'm going to cover some of the trig identities and just maybe some ways that you might need to apply them, or just let's just look at ways that it's possible that you need to apply them. That's something that you'll kind of need to use throughout calculus. So let's just start with the idea that we're on the unit circle. Remember that, we have this equation of the unit circle, x squared plus y squared equals 1, and x is equal to cosine theta, y is equal to sine theta. So we kind of went over this in a different video. So, this right here just fills the first trig identity that you will see often, and that is if we replace x with cosine theta and we replace y with sine theta, we get 1. And just rewriting it how we typically see it, where we put the square right there. This is like our first big identity. Now, if we take each one and we divide by cosine squared. So cosine squared theta divided by cosine squared theta will just give me 1, plus sine squared theta divided by cosine squared theta will give me tan, because remember sine over cosine is tan. And 1 divided by cosine squared will give me secant squared, because 1 over cosine is secant. So if I just take all of these and I divide by cosine squared, I get my second identity. Now, if I go back to this first equation and instead of dividing by cosine squared, I divide by sine squared, I get my third identity. So I'm dividing cosine squared by sine squared, which will give me cotan. I divide sine squared by sine squared, which will give me 1. And 1 divided by sine squared will give me cosecant. So that's my third identity. So these three are good identities. For instance, if I have 1 minus cosine squared theta, and I want it to be sine, this is the same thing as sine squared theta. And that's helpful if you're trying to solve a problem and you know something about sine, but maybe you don't know anything about cosine. Um, same with the others thing. So if I have a 1 plus tan squared theta, I can also just rewrite that as secant squared theta. And now maybe I know something about secant, but maybe I don't know something about tan. And so, or maybe I don't want, a 1 plus a value. Maybe I want to do some manipulation on it, which requires just one value instead of two. Maybe I want to cancel something, then those are really helpful to use there. The other trig identities that I'm going to go over is the double angle identity. So the other one that we see is sine 2 theta is 2 sine theta cosine theta. This tells me if I have a double angle, but I want to work with a single angle, then I can use this identity. For instance, if I know something about a triangle with my theta and I have all the sides, let's just say I know all these sides, well, I can't, this is 1 theta and this is 2 theta. You can use this identity to convert to where I can actually use this triangle to find my values. So that is helpful in that scenario. The other one I have is another double angle identity, and that is that 2 cosine squared of theta minus 1. This one, you can use it if you have cosine 2 theta and you want just 1 theta, then you can use this identity to get there. But also it's useful because if I solve for cosine squared theta, I can add 1 to both sides, divide by 2. I can also, if I don't want something squared, I can rewrite it this way. So that's another useful tool. Similarly, you have 1 minus 2 sine squared theta. So maybe I have a sine squared and I don't want it to be squared, then I can, do the same thing. I can say that, solve for sine squared, and I get that sine squared theta is equal to 1 minus cosine of 2 theta divided by 2. So these are just kind of useful identities that you might use throughout the course.